Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to the college debrief. We are today the 15th of December. I must say that the college meeting is still ongoing, so it is a slightly special readout that we're giving today, but in view of the importance of the subject and your deadlines, we have decided to move forward. I immediately pass the floor to Executive Vice President Mrs. Vestager.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the college readout. We have actually not finished the meeting, but I would like to give you still an overview of the points that was discussed before moving to the Digital Services Act and the Digital Markets Act. We started our meeting today with an exchange with Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General of NATO. Then the college discussed the new cybersecurity strategy together with proposals to enhance the resilience of key digital and physical entities. The new strategy will indeed bolster our collective resilience against cyber threats, and we have a lot of those. So about time. The proposals will be presented by my colleagues Joseph Borrell, Margrethe Vestager and Thierry during a press conference tomorrow morning. Then we discussed the action plan on tackling non-performing loans in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. And what it does is that it puts forward a range of measures to address a renewed build-up of non-performing loans on banks' balance sheets after the COVID-19 pandemic. This will enable banks to continue lending to households and to businesses, and of course, by doing that, to support the economic recovery. Executive Vice President Valdis Dombrovskis and Commissioner Mairead McGuinness, they will be here in the press room to present this action plan to you tomorrow. The President debriefed us all on the European Council, that we found to be successful. And as I speak now, Michel Barnier is debriefing the College on the state of play in the EU-UK negotiations. Finally, the Commission has decided to appoint Mr. John Watson as the new Deputy Secretary General. And with this said, please let me move to the proposals that Thierry and myself are presenting here today. Because what we are going to present to you are two milestones in our journey to make Europe fit for digital age: the Digital Services Act and the Digital Markets Act. The two proposals, they serve one purpose: to make sure that we, as users, as customers, businesses, have access to a wide choice of safe products and services online, just as well as we do in the physical world. And that all businesses operating in Europe, that can be big ones, that can be small ones, that they can freely and fairly compete online, just as they do offline. Because this is one world. Whether from our streets or from our screens, we should be able to do our shopping in a safe manner. Whether we turn pages or we just scroll down, we should be able to choose and to trust the news that we read. And of course, what is illegal offline is equally illegal online. I will say a few words about the two proposals and then, of course, Thierry as well, and we hope to be able to take questions and for you to meet your deadlines. I've been wondering how to give a metaphor, because these are two quite complex proposals. And the best thing I think I came to think of was the first ever traffic light that brought order in the streets. That was actually in the US, in Cleveland, Ohio. And that was invented as a response to a major technological disruption, the invention of the car. And I think just like back then, it's more than 100 years ago, now we have such an increase in the online traffic that we need to make rules that put order into chaos. And that is what the Digital Services Act is all about. Creating new rules, making the online world a safe, reliable, secure space for users of digital roads. because we should be able to trust what we see online, to navigate without being confronted with terrorist propaganda, and feeling certain that the toy that we buy online is safe, just as well as the toy that we buy in a brick-and-mortar shop. Three main actions in the Digital Services Act: more safety for users, increasing transparency of platforms, and better enforcement. Safety first, obviously, because a safe digital space is one that protects users from illegal and harmful content while preserving the freedom of expression. And that is the very important balance that we have been keeping. So we introduce new due diligence obligations. Digital platforms will be required to swiftly remove illegal content, but in parallel to explain why to the user, why the content was removed, and give him or her an option to complain about it. Also, the new obligation to know your customer will require online marketplaces to check their seller's identity before they are allowed on the platform, which will make it so much more difficult for dodgy traders to do their business. Then transparency. It's quite difficult to realize, to see through why you see this and not that. Why is one seller ranked higher than another? Why do we get to see this first, this second, and maybe something not at all? So the Digital Services Act will also require platforms to tell us how their algorithms work, how their recommender system selects the content that they show us, but not require platforms to reveal their algorithms, but to give us a better idea of who is trying to influence us and give us a choice as to whether we want to trust this or not. And last but not least, enforcement, because no legislation is any better than the enforcement of it. For people to travel safely, well, we need to have the same rules across Europe. This is why it's a regulation. This is why it's based on single market legal basis. And it needs to be tied to possible sanctions. We maintain the country of origin principle that everyone knows so well, but member states will be much better equipped to enforce their national laws, and the authorities that are to where the platforms are established, well, they will be much better at imposing redress actions if a platform fails to comply. So there will be a European approach to having still the country of origin principle. Now turning to the Digital Markets Act. This is our second proposal, and where the Digital Services Act is horizontal, applies to everyone, well, the Digital Markets Act applies specifically to what we call gatekeepers. And gatekeepers, they are defined by a special role that they fulfill in the marketplace. A role defined by the size, the role they play, and the durability in the market. So first on size. Gatekeepers, they are large players in terms of annual turnover, market capitalization, and they are active in several member states. Second, their role, that they are really operating as gatekeepers, so that they are in between a large number of businesses and an even larger number of individual users. So they play a special role for businesses actually to get access to their customers. And third, the durability, that they have this entrenched position over quite some time. I think you can imagine how this combination of criteria can give gatekeepers an unfair advantage in a given service. And that is very often an unbalanced relationship. And this is nothing new for us. We have seen this in numerous competition cases. And this was one of the reasons why we asked the three special advisors to prepare sort of the thinking, how can we be better at dealing with this unbalanced relationship? And one of the things they suggested was indeed that vigilant competition law enforcement is combined with regulation. And as you will know from the casework that the Commission has been doing, that I have been responsible for, is not one, it's not two, it's 3 Google cases. We have seen this behavior. It's the first Amazon case concerning ebooks. Now we have a second one, a third investigation ongoing. National authorities, they have been dealing with cases, for instance, by booking.com, and complaints keep coming through our doors, so we have many more investigations right now. So, obviously, this is to complement vigilant competition law enforcement. This is to do the same thing as we have been doing in banking, in telecoms, in energy, to realize that antitrust will have to work hand in hand with regulation, so that we have a complete set of tools. And then just, what are these tools? Well, the tools are actually quite simple, because once you're designated a gatekeeper, you will have to live up to a number of obligations. And I will just name 3. The use of data, interoperability, and self-preferencing. The use of data. A gatekeeper gathers enormous amounts of data. So they also gather enormous insights in the ups and downs of their competitor. They will know who buys what, when, at what price, how do they pay. They know if you hesitated or you went straight to buy what you wanted. So the point is here to say that gatekeepers shall no longer use the data they collect from all businesses that they host when competing against them. And that would imply data silos that allow for the separation of data generated in the different business lines. Second, interoperability. This concerns a situation where a gatekeeper is offering an extra service. One example could be a gatekeeper developing a new payment solution that work with a piece of software and a piece of hardware, and maybe only making it available for its own payment solution. Now, the interoperability obligation, well, that will say, well, you need to make it available also for others who can compete with you in providing this payment solution. Finally, self-preferencing, because we have seen platforms, gatekeepers who treat their own services more favorable than those of their competitors. For instance, by ranking their own services higher than their competitors, and in doing that, attracting more users. So the point is here to oblige the gatekeeper to adjust the search algorithm to make sure that rival offers, well, they receive the same level of provenance as their own offers would do. In this proposal, there is a sense of future-proofing, because it's also dynamic. We can do investigations, if it need be, so that we can see if gatekeepers are emerging, and we can put them then obligations. And this is, of course, because without enforcement, not worth much. And here again, if a gatekeeper breaks the rules, we can impose fines. If it's done several times, repeatedly, we can also impose structural remedies, divestiture, that sort of things. And as said, this is a complement to competition law enforcement. It is somewhat complex, but we are looking very much forward. I know the level of complexity because it has taken the 2 of us to get it done, and many, many people in our services. So it is with some level of, well, maybe not pride, but thankfulness that we stand here today. Thierry?